Well, I've come up with a name for this weekend in college football for week one here. I'm calling it Football Christmas
Feels like that.
because it has been a very long time since I've seen a week one this jam packed. I mean, usually there's I'd say 3 or 4 games that are talk worthy, kind of, right?
Yeah.
There you got ranked on ranked, interesting storylines. But all in all, it's usually chuck filled with those cupcake games. This
Yeah.
it feels a little bit different. There's I want to say 9 to 11, maybe 12 games this weekend that are just straight up fascinating. And we don't have all of them in there. We're saving a few of them for shorts. But that we've got, I think, like eight or nine in this one for tonight. And so we're going to be breaking it down here. A fascinating weekend of football. It's starting tomorrow night, which is football Santa comes tomorrow night, and he stays until Monday night. And
That's
so
right.
it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be a really good time.
Well, and usually, you're filled with the Floridas versus Long Islands, and I know you saw the team photo comparison between those two, and that was something for sure. But this is I almost wanted to say football New Year's, but I think you're right when you say football Christmas, because this is something that when you wake up on Thursday, you're gonna be feeling a little jittery, and then Friday's gonna come along, and we've got a couple games on here that we're gonna highlight on Friday too, and then Saturday comes, and you're like, you're just a kid in the candy shop, and that's the beauty of college football is every year it feels that way, and that's how Christmas is too. So I mean, I'm ready, man. I mean, this is exciting. I've been waiting. We've been doing a lot of shows about previewing things and previewing matchups that have been months away. But man, I'm ready to get this show on the road.
And now it's like Triple H says famously. Now it's time to play the game. We've done a lot of talking these past couple of months, and now it's time for players, coaches, staff to put this thing together and show off the product.
And we need some guys to cash our checks for us too.
Yes, no. When it comes to those parlays, those bets, it's time to deliver.
And even maybe the Rich Rodriguez West Virginia pick in the Big 12 championship. He better cash that check for me.
Hey man, we're gonna be monitoring that one. I'm gonna be checking West Virginia every single week. You better hope you don't get upset week one or week two, or else your world is gonna come crashing down, buddy. I guarantee it.
I'll be watching the backyard brawl very intently.
I mean, I love West Virginia and Pitt anyways. It's a great rivalry, so I'll
Right.
be locked in. But I mean, you've got different reasons to be locked in.
Right.
Well, there's one that we're all going to be locked into this Saturday, and let me go throw the overlay up right now. It's LSU and Clemson, the battle of Death Valleys. Who's the better Death Valley? Who's the superior Tiger?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to find out on Saturday night in a matchup that has a very low point spread, because this is almost as even as it gets. But what fascinates me, my little preview, my little teaser for this game, what fascinates me is that it's a clash of philosophies.
Yeah.
Just to make this clear, Josh Pate said this in his show last night, but I made my notes before he said this in his show last night. So I'm still warranted to say this. This is a clash of philosophies. Clemson has been very reliant on the building from within.
Yeah.
Brick, retaining guys 2, 3, 4, even 5 years in some cases. Having them commit to the program, commit to the culture, commit to the coaching staff, their development.
Yeah.
And this is the year that they've been building towards. That's very much been the narrative. LSU, they knew that they had glaring weaknesses last year, especially when it comes to the defensive front.
Yeah.
And secondary to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they used the transfer portal to address that during this offseason, if you will. And they were the most aggressive team in college football in the transfer portal. They ranked number 1 in transfer team ratings for 24/7 Sports going into this year. I think Ole Miss and Texas Tech were close behinds, but LSU went on a transfer portal rampage because Brian Kelly and his staff know, like, now is the time to deliver.
Oh yeah.
It's the leash is getting shorter, the patience is getting thinner in Baton Rouge, and it's not quite the same temperature in the room in Clemson because there's those two natties to show. Dabo will eat free in Clemson, South Carolina for the rest of his life. So I'm not concerned about what that fan base thinks of him. But compared to the Clemson standards, they've been below it the past several years, and it's time for them to get back. Prove it year for Clemson, prove it year for LSU, and they start the year off in a prove it matchup in Clemson, South Carolina. So with all that said, Luke, what are you thinking for this game?
Well, you said it perfectly. It's the battle for Death Valley. Both teams have a claim to that notion, and for me, it's a battle of Howard's Rock versus Mike the Tiger. So we're going to see do just like the old ages. Does the Rock kill the animal or not? And personally, when I look at this matchup, you go no further than the quarterback matchup between Cade Klubnik and Garrett Nussmeier, two guys that we both expect to be not only much improved, but potentially two Heisman candidates in this matchup, and what a blessing it is to see this week one. Personally, myself, the biggest thing I'm looking forward to is looking at the Clemson defensive line versus the LSU offensive line. Obviously, LSU lost a couple first rounders. Will Taylor went to the Saints, and I think Peter Woods and Jeremiah Alexander, the Alabama transfer. The bias in me was like, I really wish Jeremiah stayed, but I think it's a better situation for them. And they were high school teammates at Thompson, Alabama, and that's the real matchup for me because I don't think LSU's run game is very strong this year. I think that they have a couple guys that are gonna produce, produce solid numbers. They're going to be serviceable, but I think this Clemson defensive line is really going to dominate the kind of scrappy LSU offensive line that I'm expecting. They had two 5-star first rounders last year, and it's not going to be that same offensive line that's protecting Nussmeier this year. Obviously, we had that fraud ACL claim earlier in the year with Nussmeier that got everybody like jumping and whatnot. But like you said, low point spread. I'm big on Antonio Williams. Really big on Antonio Williams and AJ Terrell's brother. Yeah. Oh my God, can't believe I'm forgetting his name, but he's great in the secondary.
Yes.
But also when you look at LSU, I look at the defense for LSU. Like you said, they addressed a lot of issues, but I think a lot of the issues also last year came from that they were expecting a lot more out of Harold Perkins. Harold Perkins came into the year last year as a bona fide first rounder, maybe first linebacker off the board, and something just didn't click right with him. He didn't look the same Harold Perkins, or didn't make the jump that everybody expected him to make. But this year, he's going to man that defense. He's going to captain that defense. But with all that said, I left out a little bit about Aaron Anderson too. Everybody knows what Aaron Anderson can do. Another Alabama transfer. I'm going to pick Clemson here. I think Clemson gets it done. I think the home field advantage, the home record that Clemson has over the past 10 years mirrors the best in college football. And I really do believe in the buy-in method that Dabo has been preaching, that everybody got mad at him for, that everybody kind of took an insult to, that he thought that his players that he recruited, they thought it was an ego thing. But in reality, when a guy wins 2 national championships, he has a clear picture in his mind of what he wants to build. And I'm going to take Clemson over LSU here. I'm interested to hear your take and your thought on this. I think I know where you're going, but I want to hear your analysis on this.
If you watch the show long enough, it's so easy to tell where I'm going to go with things because you can just tell how I'm wired when I look at a matchup like this. So first of all, it's Avion Terrell. I looked up because I also blanked on. I don't know why I always want to say Antavion. It's every year there's a name or two that I mix up on, and I can rehearse it over and over and over and over again, and I still flub it. It's just every year I have a bugaboo, and Avion Terrell may be mine for this year, but for now we've got that patched up. So when I look at the keys to this game, when I look at the full body of work, I don't like the typical narratives, and you have it with LSU when you look at them week 1 and you say to yourself, Brian Kelly really struggles on week 1 with LSU. This has been a full-on thing for the Tigers these past several years. They struggle in week 1. They don't start off hot, but they get better as the season goes on. Well, I don't like to make picks based off of history, but history is absolutely a factor when you evaluate a game like this. And so Clemson historically starts hotter. LSU struggles in these games, and they're high and low. You've seen it with Florida State. You saw it with USC last year. Their home openers or their week 1 games. They're high, low, and ultimately they end up dropping the ball. So it's something to take into consideration, but you can't use that to define your evaluation of LSU going into this game on Saturday. There's also the home field advantage. Clemson just doesn't lose in Death Valley unless it's South Carolina. They got done last year. That was also one of those weird noon games that you kind of overlook, even though it's a big rivalry. This is Saturday Night Football.
I don't know what the
you're gonna have. You're all good. You're gonna have.
I got a call from an Auburn fan that's listening into this podcast and wanted to throw his 2 cents out there, and it messed everything up. So
well, tell him we got next.
Blame Auburn for that.
We got next.
Yeah.
When you look at this matchup here, right, the home field advantage is going to be huge for LSU or for Clemson. You have the buses rolling in, Howard's Rock, night environment. It literally gives me chills just thinking about what this puppy's going to look like on Saturday from an in-game production standpoint. Give me chills. Another big thing this is going to come down to: turnovers. Garrett Nussmeier was no stranger to them last year.
No.
And when I say that, it's no referendum against Garrett Nussmeier because he had to do what he had to do to give LSU a chance. He's a very talented quarterback, and he was trying to give them as many opportunities as he could to move the ball down the field, to generate points, but constantly pressure in his face. Constantly. I mean, drops were an issue last year. Communication, that offense was just out of sync at times last year, and he had no run game. I mean, receivers were one thing that was up and down. He had no run game to help him out, and that might be an issue Saturday night. I mean, there's no guarantee on that. That could be an issue Saturday night as well. And so, if that offensive line, that running back room, isn't giving Nussmeier enough help, I just think that Cade Klubnik has a more complete team around him to get this thing done. You've got home field advantage, and historically in this spot, Clemson has been really good at making these statements. How many times have you seen these tense games in Clemson, South Carolina? Top 10 matchups. You can cut the pressure. You can cut through the pressure in the air with a knife. This is another one of those games, and Clemson is so damn good in them. And so Clemson, as of right now, they're 4-point favorites, and I like them to win this game 34-28. I think it's a close one.
Hey, Nathan Peterman is not walking out of that locker room. So I need to start giving my score predictions too. I'm going to go a little bit on the lower side here because I think that it's going to be, both teams are going to be a little amped up in the beginning, and there's going to be some miscues and whatnot. I'm going to go 27-21 Clemson.
And that's a fair claim. The only reason why I went high is because I look at the wide receiver matchup.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be a high-flying game, regardless of how good secondaries are. I think this is going to be a high-flying game. You look at Clemson, you got Antonio Williams, you got Bryant Wesco. You look at LSU, you got Aaron Anderson, you got Barry and Brown, you got Nick Anderson.
Yeah. Man. Yeah.
These receivers are going to be cooking. I think it's going to be a fast-paced game, and I like that to kick the year off. It's not that Georgia-Clemson game you saw back in 21. I think this will be the opposite.
Yeah. This is Barry and Brown doesn't get talked about enough. So I'm glad you brought him up. He's been a real sleeper for me, especially. And even though I've looked at his name, he's been a real sleeper for me. This game is one that just it gets you not only amped up for the rest of the college football season, but it gets you amped up for the rest of this show.
Well, it gets you pumped because there's so many possibilities. It's like, who's going to emerge? I feel like somebody's going to make a name for themselves in this game. whether it's Aaron Anderson, whether it's Bryant Wesco, whether it's Peter Woods, whether it's Whit Weeks, like somebody's going to make a name for themselves on Saturday night, and I can't wait to see who it is. This is going to be a really exciting game. Now we're going to go to our home state here, Texas. Friday night lights. This I made a little short about this back in June, and it kind of blew up. So thanks to everybody who interacted with that. We've got Auburn and Baylor, and I sometimes like to pick one or two words to define a matchup. I can condense this down to one: pressure. This is all about pressure and who's going to respond to it. Dave Aranda, Hugh Freeze, both respectively on the hot seat right now.
Yeah.
And it's for good reason, because I've been alive for 25 years. I've never seen Auburn in this low of a position for football before. And Baylor, you felt it start to take off back in 2021, and it was like a hot air balloon that just ran out of hot air, really, I guess, and back down to the ground and stayed there. And Baylor fans are getting frustrated because growing up, there were a lot of storied teams that came through Waco. The RG2 teams, the Bryce Petty teams, saw a little of it with Blake Shapen. But the expectation is Baylor's got to get back. And Auburn's got to get back to competing for SEC championships, because that's what they did realistically for a while. They're up there with your Alabamas and your LSUs. They've been an afterthought, and that's got to change. And this is a huge opportunity for either one of these two teams to start the year off on the right foot and change the direction of the program, shift the tide. But if one of these two loses, the conversation, it's going to get pretty stiff, especially if it's a blowout for either one of them. It's going to, the temperature in the room is going to start to really skyrocket. And so I'll break down my prediction here first. Waco, weird shit happens in Waco, especially on Friday nights, Freaky Fridays, as I like to dub them here in the Lone State. That's what they are in Waco. Both teams, like I said, in desperation mode. I think that Auburn overall has a better roster than Baylor, player for player. I think that they're deeper. However, I think that the ultimate edge in this game is going to be the quarterback position. I think that Baylor has not only a more proven commodity, but a better commodity in Sawyer Robertson. There seems to be this expectation and this narrative around Jackson Arnold out on the eastern side of Alabama, out by the plains, out by the Georgia border, where just because he went from crimson and cream to navy blue and orange, he's going to magically become a different dude. You're going to wave a wand and bang, he's going to be the guy that you always wanted him to be. It's not that easy. And fall camp intel coming out of Auburn has suggested that he's shown good things, but he's shown bad things, just like you heard out of Oklahoma's fall camp as well. It's been up and down. It's been inconsistent. You know who isn't inconsistent? Sawyer Robertson. You know what you're going to get, and you're going to get that on Friday night. I think you're going to get a really consistent performance out of him. They retained most of their receivers at Baylor. They made enhancements to their defense, and I look at this game, and I'll be honest, I originally picked Auburn to win. I have in my notes Auburn winning here. They're favored to win by 2.5 points. But I'm going to go Baylor. I'm going to go Baylor by the score of 29-20. It's a weird score, but I think that's what this game is going to produce.
Well, I'll just start with this. When you look at two teams that produce magic out of nowhere, you got to start with Auburn and Baylor. I mean, both these teams have magical seasons, and I will say I have seen Auburn need an onside kick to beat Georgia State before at the end of the Gene Chizik era. So trust me, that lives in my mind still. So they have been down before, but yes, this is undoubtedly the probably the worst era of Auburn football in a long time. And the two words I was going to use was hot seat, and you took the words right out of my mouth there. And both these coaches they need a big victory. They need something to make the fan base feel better. I'm with you there with Sawyer Robertson. I think he's better than Jackson Arnold. A lot of reports out of camp are that nothing is. We all saw the video of him holding the ball and what looks like a 7-on-7 drill, and with he really just looked lost. And I know you can't take social media for what it is, but I do think that Sawyer Robertson is maybe a level above any quarterback that Auburn has on their roster. Um, and when you talk about their wide receivers, they bring a few guys back and they add Kobe Prentice from Alabama. He's going to be the thing with Baylor and the thing with Dave Aranda is you kind of know what you're going to get on the defensive side of the ball, and they kind of struggle with being a little bit predictable. I feel like Baylor is a very kind of predictable team. They run a lot of interesting defensive sets where they switch up coverages and whatnot. But as a whole, down in distance, you kind of know what you're going to get. Auburn definitely does have more talent on their roster. Obviously, Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, those guys are going to be huge playmakers for him. Keldrick Falk on the defensive side of the ball. They're expecting big things. DeMarcus Riddick should make a big jump this year. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to go Baylor here, and I'm going to go Baylor 23-17 here. I think Auburn struggles to find consistency and rhythm on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think Baylor is a great team by any means. But I do think that Jackson Arnold, who's had a big fumbling problem, will struggle a lot. And I could see them, maybe being in a position where they have to look elsewhere. They might have to look to Ashton Daniels on the bench. And even if they do have to do that, I don't think it goes well for them. So the quarterback position scares me for Auburn. Hugh Freeze, from my perspective, he doesn't look all that into this job. The boosters, the things I've been hearing from fans and other people around the program is that know the program, not necessarily in the program, but is that things are kind of trending downwards. And I will say a big guy for Auburn is their defensive coordinator DJ Durkin, who's been a proven defensive mind, and he will have a scheme ready for Baylor. So I think this thing once again, maybe I'm just falling under the week one trap, but I think this thing will fall a little bit lower scoring, and it's a Friday night in Waco, and weird things happen. So I'm going to take Baylor to win 23-17.
I mean, there's really no way this is pretty much a pick 'em. I mean, it's -2.5.
Yeah, it's
there's no way you can make like anybody who goes on and does this. You can't really scrutinize somebody for going one way or another in this game. Like it's really the flip of a coin. However you're feeling, I felt Auburn. Now I'm feeling Baylor, and that's what I'm going to rock with. I could be completely wrong. And this is also week 1 too, so we could have a completely wrong pulse on all of these games we're talking about right now. But that's
right.
That's just how I'm feeling for this one right now. We've got another game on Friday night. We're going out further west to the mountains of Boulder, Colorado, where Georgia Tech, one of my favorite teams going into this season, is taking on Colorado. I broke this game down the other day on just myself on YouTube, so I'll give a brief little synopsis of what I said and then hand it immediately over to you, Luke. This is a litmus test game. That's what I said about this one. This is a litmus test game. We're going to learn a lot about both of these two teams.
Yeah.
Now, the feel that I've had on Georgia Tech going into this is that they're going to be building off of last season. I thought that they really tapped into something special towards the end of last season, beating Miami, coming this close to going into Athens and beating the Dogs. I love the Haynes brothers, as you call them.
Yeah.
And I'll say it, shocker, I think Georgia Tech wins this. But when I say that, I think that this is a game that has potential to be sloppy.
Yeah.
You're going up to a different altitude. Friday night, you're a southern team going up into the mountains. That's definitely something that they're going to have to adapt to. And I hope there's not an overlooking factor of Colorado because of who they lost. There's still plenty of dogs on this Colorado team that I really like. I think Caden Salter may be in a good situation with that receiving.
I agree.
It's gonna come down to protection, the offensive line. It's a good coaching matchup here too. Brent Key, Deion Sanders, love that too. But I'm gonna stick with my pick from the other night. I'm going with Georgia Tech to win in a close one, 28-23.
And if y'all have not watched that video that he put out, I strongly advise you to go and check it out because it does provide a little bit more of an in-depth view of this game. And it really is. I like that, the litmus test. It's it's balls to the wall here. Dion, I think that, obviously you losing your sons. I see Shiloh got cut. Shadur made the 53-man roster. But regardless, they lost Travis Hunter, lost a lot of production. I think this one is going to be, like you said, sloppy teams are going to be figuring this out on the fly. But I have been a huge Kadon Salter guy. I have been praying that he was not going to transfer to Auburn for 2 years now. Just unbiasedly here, that was the one guy I really didn't want him to. Cam Ward, obviously, but I didn't want him to go out and get Kadon Salter. And that quarterback battle, it seems to be a little bit closer than I would have expected it to be between him and Julian Lewis. But my thing for Georgia Tech here is we just mentioned Eric Singleton. They lost Eric Singleton to Auburn. I want to see Malik Rutherford step into that lead wide receiver role for Georgia Tech. He has all the talent, all the speed, all the capability to do so. I do think Georgia Tech is going to keep this thing on the ground until King gets comfortable. King's, I think, one of the most underrated running quarterbacks in college football. We've talked about how we feel about Jamal Haynes a few times on this show. He's obviously one of the most prolific runners in college football. I do think that Colorado covers this 4.5-point spread, but I think that I'm going to go bold here. I think Georgia Tech wins walk-off field goal, and I think it's going to go. I think it's going to be 27-24 Georgia Tech.
Damn, a walk-off field goal to start the year off. I mean, that would be prime Georgia Tech fashion. Georgia Tech
is
so many thrilling victories. I mean, even to start the year off last year, it was a walk-off field goal to beat Florida State. Imagine doing that again this year. According to my projections, hopefully it would be leading to a playoff spot for
right
Jackets. But this is going to be a great game to start the season off. And then we get that out of the way. We get Auburn, Baylor, Georgia Tech, Colorado Friday night. Sleep for a little bit. We're going to need to charge for this banger of a day that we're going to have on Saturday. I know we already broke down one game on Saturday, but this is a nooner or an 11 o'clock game down here. This is a battle of the oranges. One shade of orange against the other. You got Tennessee, you got Syracuse, and now several months ago, it's kind of fucking off at work. It was a slow day, and I was texting with our dear friends Jackson Bassett and Cobb Beers, and I just got bored, and I was like, Syracuse plus 12.5, book it, upset of the year. And I really thought that because you see how Tennessee or how Syracuse matches up in games like this. These are the kind of upsets that they pull off. You saw it with Miami to end the season. Are they going to start the year off like that on a neutral site? Well, that was just, stimulated Brian thinking that day. And then I got back down to earth, really broke this thing down. And I'll be honest, I'm not very high on Tennessee this year. This does feel very much like a bridge year into their future where they'll continue to ascend as a program. But and Tennessee knew this going into this year. But even before the Nico departure, they were losing a lot of guys to the draft, losing guys to the transfer portal. It just was not going to be the same team. But nonetheless, I think that Tennessee is that well coached of a team to where they actually stay grounded. They stay rooted here, and they end up pulling off somehow an 8-4 season. And I think it starts with this game right here. The big question to me is, what's Tennessee's offensive line going to look like? Which receivers are going to step up?
Yeah.
Which running backs are going to step up? Because there's not a lot of familiarity when it comes to this team. Now, defensively, Tennessee's still going to be plenty stingy. You still got Boo Carter. You still got Gerard McCoy. You still got Arian Carter. Defensively, I still like a lot of the personnel. But offensively, there's no more Dylan Sampson. There's no more Squirrel White. A lot of guys there's no more Brew McCoy. Guys that we were used to for a while. And then defensively, right, there's no more James Pierce. So it's a lot of those prolific names that used to be in Tennessee just aren't there anymore. But with as well coached and put together a program as Tennessee is, I think that they find a way to patch together a good season. Now Syracuse, you want to talk a team with a lot of turnover? This is one. And I love what Fran Brown's doing up there. I said this several weeks ago. This is going to be a contender in the ACC in years to come. But like Tennessee, this is a year where they're building towards that. You've got a new quarterback in Steve Angeli, the transfer from Notre Dame. They have a completely rebuilt wide receiving core. They've got a completely rebuilt offensive line, new looks at running back. And so there's and defensively, a lot of question marks for Syracuse. And so with a lot of uncertainty going into this game, and you're going down south into Mercedes-Benz Stadium to take on the Vols. I like Tennessee in this game. And they're favored by 13.5 points. I think they cover just barely and win this 31-16.
Well, you pretty much nailed it on the head there. I think Josh Heupel, he even came out and said, I believe yesterday or 2 days ago, he said, we have a lot of unknowns. Now, I think the biggest story with Tennessee this year is obviously the Nico drama and basically the trade that we saw with them and Joey Aguilar. And I think that this is a battle of transfer quarterbacks and who's going to support them more. When I look at King, as one of my buddies calls him, King Steve Angeli, I was actually somewhat impressed overall by the times where he did come into the game for Notre Dame. Obviously, it's hard it's hard to get thrust into the games that he got thrusted into. But I think that I don't know if you're going to like this or not. And I hear you on Tennessee. I hear you on everything. 13.5 points is a lot for me. I believe in Fran Brown. And even though they did remake their offensive line, if I'm not mistaken, 4 out of the 5 guys on their offensive line have played 4 years of college ball. They do have a freshman at tackle. I believe it's right tackle. That won't be on King Steve's blind side. I think Syracuse covers this game, and I think they might win it outright, quite frankly. And that might be a bold prediction, but I think 13.5 is too much right here. And I know this isn't a line show or whatnot. As don't use the betting lines, whatnot. But I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. Right now, I'm leaning 27-17 Tennessee. I think that once again, I think I agree with everything you said about Tennessee's defense being stingy. Obviously, we know what Heupel can do. But I think Syracuse does keep it close, and I think that maybe towards the end of the game, I'm not huge on Joey Aguilar. I'm not. I don't trust anybody. This game is honestly one that I could see it going either way. But I believe in what Fran Brown's building, and I think that they're going to keep it close for a long time with Tennessee.
I'm going with this one just mainly off of my gut out of what I've seen out of Tennessee, and that's because historically under Heupel, Tennessee is one of those teams that handles business when they have to. And it's when they get outmatched where they get beat. They win the games they should, and they lose the games they're expected to lose, except South Carolina in 2022. But
absolutely.
You look at it like, you open the season with Virginia last year, then you have NC State, 2 games you should win. They blow the doors off of both of those teams. That's what they should do. Kentucky on a Saturday night should win that thing.
Yeah.
It's when they get matched up against Georgia, against Ohio State and the Cotton Bowl playoff where the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
Well, you expected that. But with as many unknowns as there are with Tennessee and Joey Aguilar, I'm glad you brought him up. He's a huge component to that. If you told me on Sunday that Syracuse pulled this off, I would be the least bit surprised because I really don't know what to make of Tennessee. But my gut tells me, multiple possession victory, not a 28 burger by any means, but I'm thinking 10, 15, maybe 17 point at the most victory for Tennessee in this one. Now,
I agree.
Let's go to 2:30 on Saturday. Down on the Gulf Coast of Florida.
I will be there.
A border war between Alabama and Florida State. And again, I made this prediction on YouTube. It was an individual video, so please go check that out. I'll give a brief synopsis of that, but then I encourage you to go back and watch that video at full length. The drive from Tuscaloosa to Tallahassee, man. I love it. It's all Alabama back roads, and I love Alabama. It is my favorite state in the union, and so I love driving through the backwoods in the country of it. I think it's fucking awesome. So then you get down to Tallahassee, and you've got this highly anticipated barn burner here. Tommy Castellanos talking a lot of shit going into this, creating headlines, creating storylines, manufacturing them, if you will, going into this game, building hype himself. And I think it's smart because, like I said, it could be the Diego Pavia effect. If he wins this thing, it could be monumental. But I think you've got an Alabama team that's dialed, that's more focused than ever. I think that the anger and the bitterness from last year is fueling a different level of focus for the Tide this year. And I know they're down Tim Keenan. Hope my boy TK gets that operation, heals up here as swiftly as possible. Jam Miller, Alabama's down Jam Miller as well. But I look at this Alabama team across the board, and I think that there's just too much depth for Florida State to handle for 4 quarters. Hear the verbiage I said, for 4 quarters. I think that this thing's dicey to start, especially if there's weather, which there could be. I think this could be, a 10-3 game in the second quarter. But ultimately, Alabama's going to find their mismatches, and they're going to win this thing. And one thing about Alabama is when they're flying high off of victory, everybody's talking good about them. That's when they overlook teams like Vanderbilt, overlook teams like Oklahoma. That's usually the narrative going into those games. This isn't that situation. This is the first game of the year. There is no previous button for this. It's only fast forward from here on out. And all you look back on in your rearview mirror is embarrassment from Michigan and from Oklahoma last year. And so now it's pedal to the metal. That's the mentality for the Tide. The point spread here, last time I checked, 13.5. I still like the Tide to win 35-20.
So I will be down there in Tallahassee for Saturday. I'm very excited. I expect to see a large crowd of Bama fans there doing the war chant when we're up a lot in the fourth quarter. The weather does provide something. The weather does provide an interesting aspect to this game, especially with new quarterbacks for both teams. And one guy that is still in question for Alabama is Jaden Roberts on that offensive line. We haven't really gotten a lot of clarity on where his status is. But ultimately, I think this comes down to being out talented, and who has. And I think Florida State's just outmatched right now. It's gonna be, dude. That place is gonna be rocking. I know they're gonna be loud. They're excited. They're disappointed after last year. 13.5 point spread. I think Alabama covers that easily. I don't want to dive too much into this because it's just going to sound like a Bammer rant. Oh, we're better than you. Our program's better than you. It is one of the lowest AP rankings for Alabama, as long as I'd say since 2008. I believe that number 8 is the lowest preseason ranking since 2008, when I believe Alabama was number 24 in the country. These guys are going to be motivated. They're going to be firing on all cylinders, and I really think that this game turns into a blowout quickly. I think Florida State hangs around for a quarter and a half. I think Alabama wins 42-20.
That's what I'm thinking. It's like quarter and a half, and then
it'll be interesting for a little bit. And I think that 20 could be, it could be more like 35-13 type deal. I'm really confident in the Alabama defense, especially the secondary, the linebacking core. And I know that Tim Keenan's a big loss, but Alabama's got a lot of depth, and I don't think Florida State can handle it.
And that's just it, is the depth across the board. And this is one of my favorite point spreads for the weekend. This is one of the most realistic ones. And I honestly don't have a problem with a lot of them, but this is one, Alabama minus 13.5, that I really like. And I think it's going to happen. I think that Alabama more than covers in this spot. All right, let's shift gears to Sunday, because this is football Sunday, not an NFL football Sunday, but a college football NFL Sunday. And it kicks off with this gem right here. 2 programs I love, but I'm going to sound off here for a second, because there's something about this game that really pisses me off. It's being played in Atlanta. Why the fuck is this game being played in Atlanta? This is, and I think we talked about this a couple months ago too, so I won't spend too long on it. Blacksburg, Virginia, Columbia, South Carolina. Come on, do the math. Let's make this home on home next time. Now, this, you want to talk point spreads. I told you I really liked Alabama's point spread, and I think Syracuse, Tennessee is realistic. If that one covers or not, I'm not sure, but it seems realistic to the naked eye. This one right here, you know what the point spread is? It'll blow your mind.
7.5.
South Carolina, 7.5. This, of all the games that we've talked about, I think has the highest blowout potential.
I agree.
I think this has the highest splattering potential because, and I evidently Vegas isn't viewing this the same way. Maybe it's neutral field taking into account here. I think that South Carolina is a far better team. And I'm not at all anointing South Carolina as a perfect team here because there are plenty of holes in this roster. That's why I don't have them in my playoff. I think this is a plenty good team. I think it's an 8-4 team, maybe even 9-3. But there's holes all over this roster. But the thing is South Carolina has playmakers that are going to move the needle in a game like this. Lenore Sellers. I think that Dylan Stewart may be the biggest X factor in this game because he is going to get after Kyron Drones, who's just coming off of an MCL injury. He missed from November on last year. So he's coming off of an injury facing South Carolina. And I'm expecting South Carolina's defensive line to really manage the tempo. And then, of course, you've got that cornerback duo, Kilgore and Collier. I think that they're going to lock Virginia Tech up. It's going to be hard for Virginia Tech to move the ball. And Lenore Sellers is going to do his thing against a Virginia Tech team that has really been trying to find itself during Brent Pry's entire tenure so far. This is going to sound bold. I like South Carolina 38-14. I usually don't pick blowouts like that, but I think this is a blowout.
I'm going to just keep this short and sweet because I'm right there with you. I picked Kyron Drones of Virginia Tech to do big things last year. Drones didn't really show that he developed the ability to pass the ball very much. I'll give you 5 names for South Carolina. Sellers. I love Racial Faison, the Utah State running back transfer. I really like him. I like his game a lot. And Dylan Stewart and Monkel Goodwin on the defensive line. I'm going to go South Carolina in a blowout easily. I mean, it's just I don't think I'd like Donovan Green from Wake Forest for Virginia Tech if that provides any hope to Virginia Tech. But yeah, South Carolina in a blowout. I'm gonna go 42. I'm honestly gonna go 42. I think they really put a licking on them. I'm gonna go 42-10.
I think it's an ass kicking, and I usually don't like freaking blowouts like that because it takes a lot of stones. But this one is one where I really see that. I think it's a huge mismatch here that not a lot of people really see coming, but this is going to be a blowout. And so we're going to go back to Sunday night here in a few minutes. We're going to fast forward to Monday really quick, and we're going to talk about the Belichick Bowl here. I don't know if you saw this shit that came out today with him and his girlfriend trying to trademark the term gold digger, but like, what the fuck is even that? So yeah. It's all preseason bullshit. That's why I'm ready to put that to the side, put Taylor Swift to the side, and let's play some ball. And that's what we're doing Monday night in Chapel Hill, South Carolina. Now, TCU once again is faced with the task of playing a really polarizing head coach hire. This time on the road, and Bill Belichick, while it made some waves, was not nearly the magnitude of Deion Sanders by any means. I mean, that was a bombshell. My numbers were through the roof anytime I talk about Colorado when Deion Sanders was there. It's somewhat the same for North Carolina, but not quite to that degree. It's been more so off the field shit that's taken place with North Carolina, but this is another team kind of like Colorado with North Carolina. There's a lot of transfers. There's a lot of transfers, and then when you look at that, you question, all right, how is this team going to gel together? One thing that I do really like about North Carolina is the South Alabama transfer. Alabama guy. We like Alabama guys. So Gio Martinez. I think that they got a really good guy in him. when I look at TCU here, how is that defense going to show up situationally? How are they going to show up in big plays? Because that was the difference for TCU last year and going to Arlington and going to the New Mexico Bowl, which is where they were. Does this defense improve situationally? I think they're going to have to play good situational ball Monday night to win this thing. And they also lost Savion Williams and Jack Betch, wide receivers last year to the draft. Both of those guys are going to shine. But they still have Josh Hoover. I think one of the most underrated quarterbacks, not only in the Big 12, but in college football overall. And I think he'll be the advantage here. I think that TCU wins this thing 35-24. I think they cover here. I think they start to turn some heads. They're only 3.5-point favorites, but I think that they turn some heads here. And I think they win this thing 35-24.
Yeah, obviously the first thing you have to look at is the coaching matchup between Belichick and Sonny Dykes. That's two pretty well-known guys. One guy that's considered maybe the best coach of all time. Obviously, Sonny. Not very often Sonny Dykes gets overshadowed like that. But I do love Josh Hoover. Obviously, I think the biggest thing for North Carolina is losing Amarion Hampton. He's gonna be great in the NFL this year too. And I'm gonna go with you here. I'm gonna go with a scared TCU pick because I can't really comment much on this game outside it's just so unknown to me that I'm just gonna have to wait and find out before I really give a clear picture of either of these teams.
Yeah, it is a very hard to define game because TCU had a lot of turnover too. I just generally feel more confident just seeing what they've done these past several years. The guidance of Sonny Dykes, and for a coach, and I know he's arguably the greatest NFL coach of all time. You're making the switch to college, and
yeah,
you're playing a program that's had a pretty good reputation the past 20 years, and so I like TCU in this spot. And now we're going to go back to this absolute barn burner that's going to take place on Sunday night, and
Catholics versus convicts.
Man, Catholics versus convicts, and this matchup right here fascinates me because I feel like there's so many narratives swirling around both of these teams and conclusions just being made when we really just have to watch them play. And so Miami, and we talked about them at the beginning of this summer, I think there's going to be kind of an identity change here and their strategy to success and winning these games. Last year, they're high flying, right? Secondary was terrible, but offensively, you're putting up 400 yards a game and 40 points, and they're winning these games 45-38. I think this is going to be more of a 27-23 Miami team, 24-20 type team this year. It's going to be more of a hitch in the mouth, more of a ground and pound, wear you down football team this year. They completely reworked this defense. It was so bad last year. I mean, last year for Miami was like one of those benders where like you drink so much Fireball that it's like I'm not going to drink for 2 months, and I may even check into AA in the meantime, and that's kind of where Miami was last year. So bad that defense was to where like,
oh God, dude,
we're reworking this thing, we're retooling this thing. They made all different defensive hires. They've got a new defensive coordinator. They've got a new defensive line coach. All over the board, just churn on the defensive side of the ball for Miami. And it's not all rinse and repeat on offense either. Don't get me wrong. You're going from Cam Ward to Carson Beck. One of the big storylines this offseason. We expected him last year at this time to be going in the first round of the NFL draft. Well, he went in the first round of the transfer portal last year to Miami, and he's now down South Beach. But I said to say, I think it's going to be a great fit. I actually do. And I think there's a chance that Miami exceeds expectations this year. I love the running back duo of Mark Fletcher and Jordan Lyle. And I think that's going to be prolific in this game here. That's going to be a focal point. That's going to have to really take off in this game. Flip side, look at Notre Dame. And once again, another year, another quarterback. We've gone from Sam Hartman to Riley Leonard to now CJ Carr. And there's a chance last week it was even going to be Kenny Minchie. But it's been now solidified it's going to be CJ Carr. And so you're going to have a Notre Dame offense that's going to be more prone, more apt to try to make big plays with that arm that he has. And I know there's always this question about Notre Dame's offensive line. We saw injuries again this summer. It's never really an issue. It's a really well unit, and I think that they'll be able to protect against Miami's defensive front that I do think is improved, but it's a tall task. Miami's defensive front having to go up against that unit to start the year. Notre Dame's receiving core is something, quite honestly, that it is not being talked about nearly enough right now.
I agree.
Jaden Greathouse, I think, is one of the most underrated players in college football right now. Notre Dame's wide receiver. And you also look at the UVA transfer, Malachi Fields.
Yeah,
I think that this is going to be a prolific receiving core. And then you have a big arm like CJ Carr. It just brings the best out of receivers because I think Riley Leonard was great for Notre Dame last year. I think he was a perfect fit for that offense. But when you're a receiver trying to turn heads of scouts and rise up on draft boards, you want a guy like CJ Carr that's going to get you big yards. And I think that you're going to see these Notre Dame receivers really start to pop in ways that they haven't in the past. And that's going to be part of their attack on Sunday afternoon. Of course, Notre Dame's secondary as well, absolutely nasty. And so I can't wait to see this matchup take place. What are your thoughts on it?
I'm right there with you. One guy I don't think you mentioned was Jordan Faison, who was kind of one of the big performers in the college football playoffs last year.
Yes.
He really came on strong at the end of the year. Obviously, the unknown at quarterback for both teams, really. I mean, Carson Beck is a little well known, but he's going to a new system. One thing I always knew about Mario Cristobal, because he spent some time at Alabama, obviously went to Oregon. He's always been a defensive-minded coach, so I'm sure he was absolutely sick to his stomach last year watching that defense give up as many points as he did. Retooled it, rewired it. Overall, though, I think Notre Dame wins in a close one, even though I think I could flip-flop on this. Let me see how Saturday night goes, and I think I could flip-flop on this to Miami because I could see both things happening.
This is definitely a flip-flopper. Right now, I feel confident in Notre Dame just because I love their direction as a program right now. And Marcus Freeman in these big games, he's shown these built for A&M last year, right? USC last year.
Yeah.
The playoff games, the Georgia game, the Penn State game, showed up and showed out. And I like Notre Dame to pull this off as well. Leonard Moore, Christian Gray on the defensive side of the ball. Secondary, Devontae Smith, the transfer from Alabama. Love working with him at Alabama too. I think that they really slow Carson Beck's passing attack down. And I like Notre Dame to win this thing 30-24. They're favored by 2.5. I think that they cover.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, that's all for today. I appreciate you coming on here, Luke. Wait, there's one game we're forgetting. There's one game that we're forgetting.
Wait.
You thought we were going to forget this.
Wait, who's playing? Who's playing on 11 a.m. Central Time on Saturday with the dispute between YouTube TV and Fox?
There's an orange team.
Orange.
I know that.
Is it Texas OSU, the big one in the horseshoe?
You guessed it.
Okay. All right.
Number 1 against number 3. I really hope that we fuck with some people on that one, thinking that we were going to end this show without talking about this absolute gem right here. And I've called this one just the big one.
Yeah.
This is the big one. A term that I'm going to use to define this game is emotion. The amount of emotion that's going to be in the building on Saturday. Just having number 1 against number 3, Big Ten against SEC.
Yeah.
Arch Manning's first game starting, and like officially for Texas, not just for you. It's like he is the face of the program now. This has been anticipated for 2.5 years now, and it's finally coming to fruition. This is the thing now. You've got Lee Corso's final college game day.
Yeah.
Well, and I know you'll think, well, what does that have to do with the actual game? That's massive in the world of college football, and you're going to feel that. Like
my childhood's gone.
I know my childhood. SEC and CBS is gone, and now so is Lee Corso. What the actual fuck? But it's going to contribute to the overall emotion of this day because high octane matchup. You've got that factored in, and then I was at this game a couple months ago when I was at AT&T Stadium right down the road here.
Yeah.
And I'll say this: you may not be able to see as much on the screen, maybe a little bit at times. This game was chippy.
Yeah.
This game was emotional. And there's been a lot. If you've been on social media, you've seen there's been a lot of shit talking going on, especially on the Ohio State side with their media team. Some of the pictures that they put out on Instagram earlier this week, that they're talking shit. And the guys that were on the field for this matchup in the Cotton Bowl a couple months ago, those bitter feelings are still there. It's not quite Ohio State, Michigan, but there's going to be some guys that are ready to set their record straight on Saturday morning, if you will. That's how fucking early this game is. So my question going into this, who regulates their emotions better? Ohio State or Texas? And I had to do a lot of thinking going into this one, looking on both sides, because Ohio State, yeah, there's some churn. There's some questions about their defensive line after some of the guys that they lost to the draft this year. You know, Will Howard's not there anymore. You've got Julian Sayin starting as a sophomore. This is still an 89% blue chip team. This is still a team that has Brandon Ennis, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate. You know, you're still looking at Caleb Downs on defense. This is a solid team still. Like, do not get it twisted. This is one of my favorite national championship contenders this year. There's two of them right here on the screen, but Ohio State is one of them, you know, among Alabama and Clemson as well.
Yeah.
A few episodes ago. But man, Texas is deep. It's a deep, high-powered team. There's not many holes when you look at it. That running back duo is nasty. Trey Wisner, CJ Baxter. I do think that, you know, Arch Manning is a question mark going into this game. You know, if he wins this thing, I told you it's built for the moment. If he doesn't, I told you he was fugazi this whole time. The narratives will be swirling. Prolific guys like Anthony Hill on defense.
Yeah.
I think that guys like that hold it down. Ultimately, I look at this game historically. Ohio State, they've been one of those teams that can start slow. They did last year. This was a 10-2 team last year. I don't think Ohio State really caught fire until the playoff.
Yeah, no doubt.
Texas makes early season statements. You saw it with Alabama 2 years ago. You saw it with Michigan last year. I don't think they make a statement here by any means, but I think seasonality is a big key when it comes to picking these games, and that's just one thing that can make you sway from one way to another. This is a pick 'em for me. I may wake up and pick Ohio State in the morning, but right now, I'm picking Texas to go into the shoe and win this thing 31-27. Ohio State is favored by 2.5. I think this is the only game in the show that I'm going against Vegas in, but I am.
I'll say this. I have a hard time going against the defending national champion just as a kind of a bias towards, you know, how Alabama always was, you know, there's always those big games, whatnot. It's being played in the shoe. You know, whether it's Kineholtz or it's going to be Sayin, but we'll see. We'll see how Sayin plays. I mean, Alabama transfer again. I'd like to put that out there. Like you said, it's a pick 'em for me. You pretty much nailed it on the head. Anthony Hill, impact player. Jeremiah Smith, impact player. Arch Manning, unknown. Gets a lot of media presence, but he's still unknown overall. Right now, I have Ohio State winning this game. You know, maybe I'm on the wrong side of this, and my SEC brothers are not going to be happy with me for fading the SEC in every possible way this video. But I think Ohio State gets it done at home. Emotions kind of run. They're going to be fired up. I expect some mistakes. I think this is going to be a high-flying matchup. I'm going to go 38-35 Ohio State. And it's a lot of points, but I think it's going to be back and forth. Both teams are going to have to score.
This is going to be a very bull in a china closet kind of game, I feel like, especially early on, because the emotions are going to be high. A lot of young guys, a lot of very talented guys, but a lot of young guys. And so I think that just getting into the rhythm early on is going to be huge, and going into the shoe is a huge factor here. But man, I can't remember the last time that we've had a week 1 game this big. I heard somebody call it the biggest regular season game of all time. That's a stretch because you don't really know who these teams are going to be. But I've got a feeling that these are two real bona fide national championship contenders. And getting how often do you get a rematch of a semifinal that just happened?
Yeah.
On week 1. It's almost like this is made in a storybook, but this is happening in real life.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, you're going to get that with every first game that's big like this. It's always the biggest matchup of all time, whatnot, just to build some anticipation and whatnot. But dude, this whole week 1 as a whole was just a blessing from the college football gods. I mean, we struggled. There's some games that we had to leave out that would have been probably some marquee matchups on the first week of the year in previous years. So I'm excited, man. This is like I'm a kid in a candy shop right now, and this is so much fun. I'm glad that we were able to break down and actually predict things. You know, we got some certainty on the depth charts and whatnot. No more speculation, only results now.
I love that. It is officially time to prove it. This is now the prove it time of season. Talking season is over, and it's now time to literally put your money where your mouth is.
Cash some checks.
Like week 1 in the past has been like getting blood from a stone, but this year it's like trying to drink out of a fire hydrant. It's just complete opposite bizarre worlds, and I love it. Like we said, the party starts tomorrow night.
It does,
and it's a bender. This is a college football bender that goes all the way until Monday night because that TCU North Carolina game matters. I know it's unranked, but man, that game gets me juiced.
Hey, pray for everybody's livers.
Yes, pray for mine especially. It's going to need it this weekend.
Hey, I pray for me to make it out of Tallahassee safe and sound.
I can't be going down there. That's going to be awesome.
Gonna be a fun game. Gonna go down there on Friday night, check everything out. Hopefully, do the war chant on Saturday excitedly.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we'll get a reaction video or something. We'll see.
No, if you can get any content down there, please do.
I will.
Well, thank you for coming on here, Luke. This was
always
when this is going to be an every week thing. You
absolutely
not see from now until what is it? The second week of December. That between regular season or championship weekend and playoffs. But then we're doing championship week and we'll be doing the playoff as well. So it's just that 1 week gap where you won't be seeing us, and then it'll be seeing us again until late January now, because that's how late the season runs.
Yeah, crazy. It's a marathon.
It is. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Well, thank you all for watching tonight as well. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.
Absolutely.